Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dog Q&A 16. I am here with Diana and Cooper, and I'll show, well, she's got Cooper there. Can you show us Cooper? There he is. So, Diana, why don't you tell us a little bit about Cooper and the issues you're having with him? How old is he? Where did you get him? And what are you seeing with his behavior?
Okay, Cooper's a year old, the 31st of August, and I got him when he was 3 months, and I got him from a breeder, and Cooper is the best dog ever, except he's got some anxiety issues, and the really bad thing about him right now is every time I have him out, he totally attacks. I mean, he starts barking, growling, and when he's on his leash, I mean, he's actually choking. He's trying so hard to get to whoever is walking past us or a dog, and I have a hard time controlling him. I mean, I pull on the leash, I have to pick him up, and it's just embarrassing. It's so embarrassing because, I mean, he's such a cute dog and everybody wants to pet him, and he just, I mean, he's just so scared. So that is a big issue. I wanted him to be a service dog. My doctor did write me a letter because Cooper had so many anxieties when he was little about leaving me, and I have taken him into restaurants and he does perfectly. He, as long as, you know, we just go to the table and he sits next to me, don't put his head on the table, you don't go after anybody. But now when he starts this, it makes me nervous. I don't want to take him out in public and, you know, ruin it for everybody else that has service dogs that do go in places. So I haven't been taking him out anywhere because this is getting to be a huge problem. Even when I have him at my grandkids and little kids will come up and want to pet him, oh, he just growls and goes lunches after him like he's really gonna bite. And I don't know what I'd ever do if he'd bite somebody in the face, you know.
Yeah. So how old was he when you got him?
He was about 2 months.
Okay, so
8 weeks. He was 8 weeks. Yeah.
And did you get him from a breeder?
Breeder. Yeah. He was from a breeder, and really as quiet as can be. He never even barked or anything. I work a lot. He did not like the kennel at all. I mean, even at 2 months, I could come home from school. I work at a school district where 3 hours, and if he pooped in his kennel, I mean, he'd go just totally crazy. He did everything to get out of that kennel, and he could unlock it and slide the bar over it. And I'd come home and it was like, oh my God, Cooper, how did you get out? And he would just be going spastic trying to find me. And so I had a big problem with that. But I mean, as far as, I mean, he was, if you're there with him, he was fine. But he's just not a sociable dog. I did try to take him to a dog daycare, and oh my gosh, I just felt so bad because they came to the car to get him, and Cooper jumped on me and he just scratched me because he didn't want to go. And I thought, you know, I gotta let him start doing this. And I watched him on my phone, and he didn't even mingle with the dogs. And which is odd because I got 2 big dogs in my backyard, and he loves to run over there and try to get in the fence and play with them. And he cries, and he's nice to those 2 dogs. But other dogs are little kids or people. If I'm walking down the street, he just wants to attack them.
Now, with your other 2 dogs, has he known them his whole life?
No, those are 2 neighbor dogs. I don't, Cooper's the only one I have, because I asked you about, because my support group on Maltese said, oh, well, he just needs another dog. And I said, are you kidding me? I can't handle this one.
Exactly.
There's no way.
Yeah.
I'd have double the trouble. So I said, no, that won't work. And because he is just totally dependent. He's attached to my hip. I even do Ubering, and I have to take him on my trips with me. And then he got to be too aggressive to where I didn't know what he'd do. So he goes to the ones that I have every week, and he loves them. But boy, like my daughter-in-law says, gosh, it's just not even Cooper when he goes. He's, in fact, I said, yeah, I'm thinking about going through you for behavioral. She goes, oh, well, bring her over to Jim's because he hates that guy. I mean, she says, I said, because I don't know if I want to do behavioral and then not go over my problem because he's perfect in every other way. And so like she says, oh my God, he can go to get his mail and he goes through the door. He'll run and actually knock himself out darn near hitting the front door, trying to get to him. And it's just like, that's just not Cooper, but she says, oh, Jim comes over to fix something and he just goes after him like he's going to tear his leg off. And
it's a lot of, he seems like he has a lot of fear and anxiety. So sometimes we try to look at where that came from. And if he's from a breeder, did you meet the parents of his parents when you were there? Did you pick him
I didn't meet
up?
the two dogs. No.
Was he shipped to you?
No. She lives in, is it Arnold or Imperial, Missouri? And in fact, my daughter-in-law is going to pick up half a Maltese and a Yorkie, the 19th. And it'll be Cooper's brother, but she's keeping him there.
Did you go to get him?
Yes.
Okay, and you didn't meet the parents though?
I can't hardly hear you.
You didn't meet Cooper's parents?
Yeah, I didn't meet the two. No, I did not.
Okay.
Tina just brought him out, and I got to get acquainted with him, and then we took him home.
Did you meet the other puppies? Did you meet the whole litter of puppies?
Yes, there was a female and then two males, and everybody kept. I always have female. I usually always have labs, and I live in a condo, so a friend of mine had one little dog like this a long time ago, and I just fell in love with Louie, and I thought, oh, I'd like to have a dog like that. And with me being in a condo, I knew I couldn't have another big lab, so got him, thought he'd be better to take places and for traveling and everything. And that's why, and I have girlfriends that have Maltese, and they all say they're very good dogs. So I thought, well, that, he would be good with the grandkids and, he is good with kids, but not strange kids. He just really is awful.
So when you saw the other siblings, his siblings, what were they like? Did they run up to you? Were they running away? Were they in between?
They really stayed, they distanced themselves, and Cooper was the only one that really came out. The other ones, she said she kept him by himself somewhat because he wasn't a barker like the other ones. And I said, good thing, because I really didn't want a barker or a dog that was aggressive. And I know those dogs have a tendency to be little nippers or barkers. And so she says, yeah, Cooper is not. He hardly barks at all. And when he was little, I had no problems with him even being social. It's just started within the last 6 months or so.
Okay, so for a dog, typically this type of fear is rooted in one of two things or both, genetics or lack of socialization during that critical phase, which is up to 3 months, and then throughout that first year. So I look, hearing about the breeder, it's a red flag for me that she didn't let you meet the parents, because if the parents are nice and friendly and happy, the breeder typically wants you to see that, because that's what the puppies are going to be like. And in my experience, when the breeder does not let someone meet the parents, it's because they've got some behavioral issues and probably should not be breeding. So I don't know if that's what's happening here, but it is a pattern that I've seen, and it is a red flag, which means this is in the genetics of your dog to be fearful and possibly aggressive, who knows? Without knowing the parents, it's hard to say. But the fact that the other puppies were standoffish, for a young puppy, they should be boisterous, running up to people. If they've been socialized well, even at 8 weeks old, they should have some good solid foundation of genetics that make them friendly and outgoing and not running away or not staying away from things in fear. So that's kind of something to be aware of, is now you're going to be fighting this genetic component that is always going to be there. So with that going on, it's a much harder battle against the behavior aspect. And then when you got him and brought him home for that first month, how many people or dogs did he meet? How many places did he go to? What was that first?
See, and this is another question I wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
He was very active when I first brought him. And in fact, people just loved him. He's just like a little snowball.
Yeah.
And my other daughter-in-law's got 2 beagles. And I would let him go over there, and he loved to play with the beagles. The beagles would growl at him.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get worried. I'd say, oh, is he going to hurt Cooper? Because I didn't want Cooper to pick up that.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, oh, no, that's how Addie plays. And I said, oh, okay. Well, then they would start running around. And the other one was older and would kind of nip at him. And that bothered me. But it seemed like he liked playing with them. And we went over there. He loved Jen, my daughter-in-law, and sometimes he acted like he didn't even want to come home, and he loved my granddaughters. And really, it just started, like I said, after the lockdown, shutdown, after I was home all the time, I said, I guess he's not getting out very much. And that's what everybody says. He needs to socialize. But now when I took him to the daycare that one time, he wasn't mingling with any of the dogs.
And
I watched him.
When you took him to daycare, was that during the lockdown period or before?
It was right when it was opening up.
Okay.
It was about 2 months ago, because they even called me and they said, oh, you don't like us? Because I had Stephanie go pick him up. I mean, Cooper seems real like he's anxious. I even gave him medicine to calm him down. And I said, oh, no, it's not that I don't like you guys. It's just that Cooper's got issues of a separation, issues. And so I said, he probably really needs this. Mm-hmm. But I watched him on the phone, and he just kept going to the door and calling and whatnot. And so when Stephanie picked him up, I mean, he almost jumped into the window at her, so, and I mean, the place was fine. It's just Cooper. I mean, Cooper's very he's my dog. He's almost connected to my hip. And I don't like that, because I have to work like 3 jobs,
Yeah.
I really wanted him to go to daycare so he would have other dogs to play with.
Do you find that his behavior changed during the lockdown, or was it starting before that?
I would say probably, went from 2 months to about 4 months. Like I said, I had him out. I Ubered with him even. He was so tiny, I put him on my lap. And a lot of the young kids at college would love him and hold him, and he did fine. And I was having problems kennel. I'm on a support group for Maltese, and because I was beside myself, I said, I can't just let him roam the house. He's too little. And he would not stay in a kennel, no matter what I did. I mean, it was frustrating. And I thought maybe that was it because I was leaving him alone. But then once we had the lockdown and I was there all the time, he seemed to be fine until like now when you go out, it's like he does not like it at all. You know, so
Yeah.
I mean, I can't walk him. I mean, I take him out, and I mean, I told my neighbors they all gonna hate me because Cooper, I'll leave him on the leash, but I'll shut the door and I won't be holding the leash. And he takes off on me if he sees somebody. I almost ran in front of a car trying to save him because he was running over after a kid, barking and growling at him. And I said, there's a car coming, Cooper. And I ran out, you know, so that he's so little, they wouldn't have seen him. And he stopped at that kid. And I said, you guys, he's okay. He won't bite you. But still, the mom was kind of scared. I said, really, I'm going to pick him up. He'll be fine. And I said, just give him time for you to pet him. And you could tell that he was trying to pull back in my arms, like, don't let him touch me. And I said, thank you for taking the time and petting him. And so the little girl said, oh, can you put him down? And I said, well, we're getting ready to leave right now, so I better hold him. But that's what I'm starting to try to do now, Tricia, is that.
One thing I would suggest, instead of, so what that's doing is kind of flooding him with something he's very afraid of. And that can actually cause him more fear and trauma. A good thing you could do is, so what socialization is teaching a dog to be neutral to everything and have no reaction to anything. So the way you kind of go about that is to take something on the walk that he really likes, like maybe chicken, like boiled chicken or hot dogs or something. And he only needs like tiny, tiny pieces. And teach him to sit and look at you when there's something scary nearby. Now, the caveat is that you've got to keep him far enough away that he's able to sit and look at you and take treats with a scary thing in the background. Okay. Now, it'll be different for everything. So maybe this man that he hates so much, that guy might have to be 200 feet away for Cooper to sit and look at you. But maybe a child that he doesn't know can be 40 feet away. You just have to look at Cooper and see what he's able to do. So if he cannot look at you, won't take treats, if he's barking or growling or lunging on the leash, he's too close to what's scaring him. Okay. So one of the most cost-effective ways to kind of work on something like that is to do a training class. And then hopefully you've got an instructor who understands reactivity in a dog and can help you teach him to focus on you instead of lunging or doing whatever he wants to do. So that's what we call keeping him below threshold. And above the threshold is where he reacts. Below the threshold is where he can look at you and take treats and do a known command or something. I understand you're working 3 jobs, you're very busy, but this is a behavior that will only get worse with time. The lockdown probably did not help him at all, like a lot of dogs and people. It brought a lot of anxiety and fear and all of this. So he's picking up on that. Now he's been isolated a little more because we've been isolated a little more. And he's just become very afraid of a lot of things. So a class will also get him exposed to new people and dogs and a new situation and going in the car and just doing something, you know, and then you're forced to do it every week for 5 or 6 weeks. And then they give you the skills to kind of help you teach him to be neutral to things. Right. So focusing on you, not forcing him to meet something he's afraid of or encounter it, but teaching him that you're more exciting than that thing he's afraid of. So you're the one that's going to help him through the scary situation. And then the treats help make it more positive. Okay. So He sees a child far away, he starts to look and alert to it, but he's not barking yet. That's when you get his attention, have him sit, look at you, give him treats, and it makes that child positive because he doesn't have to meet the child and he's getting food. And then if the child starts to come over, you can just pick him up and say, sorry, we can't meet you. If Cooper can settle and be calm when you pick him up in that situation, then you can stand there and talk to the person and explain what's going on. But if he becomes afraid and trying to flee or reacts to the child, then you just want to take him out of there and say, sorry, we can't,
talk today.
Yeah, he's too afraid or whatever. Tell him whatever you want to.
Yeah.
So that's the concept. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think, the lockdown did a number on a lot of people and dogs. And it really set, a lot of people got puppies during the lockdown, and it was very hard to socialize them. And so now we're predicting we're going to have this batch of very under socialized puppies, we call them COVID puppies. Some people may have been able to get out and socialize their dogs, but it's been, it's hard, especially if you're able to work during the lockdown, then you're busy too. You might want to go back to crate training, but not forcing him into the crate, but maybe start feeding him in the crate. So
he's doing that good now.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's amazing because it was horrible before, but now that I've went back to school, I'll say kennel up, Coop, and I got your treats. I mean, he even knows when I'm getting ready for school, I mean, he just knows he's going to get in, and it's amazing that he does that now. Great. He really is. I mean, he's such a sweetie. It's just that I hope he just never would ever growl and bite somebody.
Well, and so with the crate, is he going in on his own?
Yep.
Oh, great. Okay, so you work.
Yeah, I'll say, Cooper, I got him a different one. Everybody, even at work, says, Diana, don't get him a big one when he was a puppy. And I bought like 3 or 4 different, and then I bought one of those playpens, and then he'd fly out of that. It was like I got a flying dog, and nothing seemed to work. And then I got this other one, because like I said, he knew how to unlatch it and move it over. Now I got one of those spring locked ones that is kind of closed in, and he feels fine in that. I mean, this one works great, but I had to go through 4 different crates because nothing worked.
Okay,
so,
well, very good. That's excellent.
Yeah, that part is great because he's too little. He gets too nervous because people said, well, can he stay in your house? I even tried to dog proof my house, shut doors and take plants up. Well, he ran downstairs, I guess, trying to look for me one day. And I had Christmas stuff. And when I got home, he had one of those hooks in his hair from, the light bulbs. And I said, Cooper, where have you been? And he had ran downstairs and I guess was looking in all the Christmas stuff. And so that's what I told the lady when she said, well, can you leave him? I said, no. I said, I shut the basement door. I'm too afraid he flies down the steps. He don't go down the steps. I even had a gate up so that he'd go in between the bars and actually fly down the steps. It was like, I mean, he just had a mind of his own. It was horrible. So now that he's gotten older, he's better.
Okay, good. And so back to your question of, assuming he's not going to bite anybody, I usually go the other way and I assume that he is going to bite somebody. And if you have that mentality, then you're prepared to work with him in the way that will prevent that from ever happening. So if you assume every person he's afraid of, he's going to bite, then you're more leery of letting him meet somebody. You're more aware that all dogs with teeth can bite.
Right.
It's just a fact.
Right.
And so it's just, and the more he practices this behavior of reacting and getting people to run away or be afraid, then he learns that it works. And then it may escalate. you know, and if he gets pushed to a point where, you know, further than he's been pushed before in fear, then he may bite, you know.
Right.
So it's something to just be aware of. And when you see this in a 1-year-old dog, this is something you can work with, but you have to start now.
Right.
And start teaching him that he doesn't need to be afraid, because you're going to protect him from the scary things. So that's where it needs to start. I would say, you know, once we finish here, look for a training class in your area that you can, that works for your schedule. It's only an hour, you know, each week, and then it gives you some motivation to work with him, so you can sort of nip this in the bud a little bit.
Right, because I know I bought him for my grandkids, and I think my daughter-in-law was like, oh, this dog is so good, except for because my granddaughters are younger and they have kids coming in the house. And I told her, I said, well, you have to correct him. I mean, you can't just, I said, what are you doing when he does that? I mean, she goes, well, catches me off guard a lot of times. And I know that feeling. And so I can't tell her to what to do if I don't know what to do. And I don't have little kids coming into my house like she does. And
well,
like she says, otherwise he's a perfect dog.
So with little kids, he already has shown you that he's afraid of little kids. So you have to do the preemptive strike and say, okay, if little kids are coming over, he needs to be put away in a safe place, maybe in his crate, give him something to chew on, or a toy, or, you know, like a long-lasting treat that he can have when the kids are there. And maybe he's in a room with the door closed too, so that they can't accidentally either run up to his crate, which could be scary for him. You know, working him around children would be a whole other scenario. But if you're just managing him in a house full of kids, put him away. That's the easiest. And then if you ever want to socialize him to kids, it starts with having the children, and this is all very controlled. Make sure the parents are there, that they will cooperate. So keep the kids far enough away that he's not going to react or be afraid. He may notice them, but as long as he can sit and take treats, that's how you can work with that. Is, you know, like we talked about before, have the scary thing at a distance. So that in that case, it will be the child, and then have him sit and look at you and take treats. Once he's able to do that with the children around him and not approaching, they can start tossing treats to him. And then he learns that children mean hot dogs fall from the sky, you know. But you have to constantly watch his reaction to make sure that he is progressing positively and not regressing back into fear.
That makes sense.
Okay, good. So that's the concept. And, you know, obviously we could do training if you want. I definitely would love to see you in a class, first and foremost, and just start that ball rolling. And then, but it's all about management too. So the class will help you work with him, but then the rest of the time you're managing his environment. So keeping him away from scary things, and keeping scary things away from him, which is harder because you can't control everything else.
Right. Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah. And he's only a year, so you've got some time. Maturity in a dog is around 3 years old, depending on the breed and size. But so if you start working on this now and do this consistently for the next couple years, you've got a good chance of having a pretty balanced dog. But the key is getting him socialized in a way that's comfortable for him and positive. That's the secret. And
that sounds good.
Yeah, he dictates what's positive. So you have to watch his behavior and his reaction.
Well, it got to be where, you know, when I first got him and he was 4 or 5 pounds, I thought, oh, wait a minute, this dog isn't going to control me, you know, because I couldn't keep him in the kennel. I thought, you know, I have never had a puppy. and I did on my support group, this one lady kind of got mad because I was saying something about him. I said, I just can't get him under control. And she goes, for God's sakes, he's a puppy. And I thought, yeah, you're right. You know, it's like I'm wanting him to be this grown dog. And it was like, yeah, you're right. You know, he's going to do things. And I do have to teach him stuff, and trying to work and then having a new puppy, just putting him in the kennel and leaving to go to work. I did really feel bad. You know what I mean? That I couldn't work with him. So
yeah, it's like a baby, you know, they have to be taught everything.
Right.
And he may be teaching himself some things that you don't like now. You know?
Right. Exactly. That was like, God, this dog's 4 pounds and thinks he's going to tell me what he's going to do, you know, and they do, you know, they pretty much take charge. And it was like, oh, no, wait a minute. We've got to stop this. And so, you know, you are staying in your crate, and, you know, it seemed like every time he pooped in his crate, he just would go crazy. You know, he tried to get out of it. So then I put a little crate into a playpen where he could get out to go on his potty pad. Then he used to fly over the, I would say, how can a dog, 4 pounds, fly over this play pen thing? It was amazing what he could do. You know what I mean? And it was like, this is just so strange that a dog would be nervy enough to be a little bitty, you know, 3-month, 4-month dog and do that stuff. You know what I mean? I would think you'd be this little bitty thing that would be kind of, you know, shy and just lay there, but not Cooper. So,
well, that's a great point too, is it sounds like he's got a lot of working drive, which is something you see in dogs that are bred to do jobs, like hunting dogs and things like that. Like, they are bred specifically to do certain jobs. And so those dogs are a lot harder to have as a pet because they need something to do constantly. And, you know, a Maltese is not just a cute little lap dog. They're actually a very busy breed. And poodles are extremely intelligent. They always need mental things to do, or they create them. So now you've also got this on top of everything else, is he just always has to have something to do.
yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
And I feel guilty about it. Like, I feel like he's depressed because he lays around, and then I'll, you know, call my daughter-in-law so that the kids will take him for a while and tire him out, because, and he's great over there. But when I got him, it's like, Cooper, are you depressed? All he does is sleep, and it just bothers me, you know, and I take him for a walk as much as I can. And, you know, he does great until he meets somebody, and then we've got this, oh, it's time to go home, you know. So, and he don't have a chance to really run because I'm in a condo, you know, and then I'm afraid I'm going to lose him. He'll take off on me, and then it's like, oh, I've lost my dog, you know, and then I'm yelling for him. So, yeah, he does. That's why I thought a daycare would be great, because he would be with other dogs and mingle with them and get social. But oh my gosh, the first day I felt so bad. He jumped on me and hugged onto me for dear life, and they had to just almost tear him off of me. And they said, oh, well, we'll change this problem. And it was like, oh, well, I'm sure you'll have fun doing that, because, you know, he has anxiety really bad. So I did try to give him drops to kind of calm him down the first time I took him. So, but yeah, in fact, they asked me when he was coming back, and I said, I don't know. He's so attached to me that I said, it's nothing against you guys. It's just that, you know, I just hate for him to be away from me. But now he knows my daughter-in-law and the girls and everybody in my family, and he does fine with them. So I don't know what caused the behavior with the strangers. You know, I don't know what has caused that.
Yeah, I think the doing a class will help with a lot of these issues. The daycare can go either way because that is sort of flooding him again with things he's not comfortable with.
Right.
But sometimes, how many times have you taken him to
Well,
daycare?
I took him to see if he passed the test. You know, I got a free day just to see if he'd do okay, and he passed the test. And then I took him again and was going to leave him when I had to do some real estate meetings, and it was going to be like an 8-hour day.
Mhm.
And my daughter-in-law was going to pick him up,
Mhm.
but he only lasted 2 hours, and I was watching in my phone because it seemed like when he was in the room with the dogs, I didn't know if the dogs could pee right there. And I didn't want him to get that habit because that dog is so potty trained. He'll go in the kitchen on his pad or he goes outside. He very seldom ever has a problem. And I thought, oh my, I don't want him to think he can just go potty wherever he wants, you know, because I would see him going in and cleaning up. I'm going, oh my God, do the dogs just pee in there? And so that bothered me because I thought I don't need more bad habits. And so, and I watched him and he just looked nervous. He would just walk around and go to the door and paw at the door. But they said he was really good. He didn't seem to be aggressive to the dogs. And in fact, I felt bad for him a couple times because he'd go up and try to play with the dog and they wouldn't play with him.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so
Yeah.
he did try to interact.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that I think that would be good to continue with. Um, Maybe we can talk about later what kind of place you're going to because you want to make sure that it's not, that they know what they're doing too. But so with a daycare, what I like to see is one handler for 10 dogs. If there's more than 10 dogs, 2 handlers then, so make sure that's a 10-to-1 ratio. And they should be kind of managing the dogs all the time and making sure they're all interacting appropriately and their people are walking around, not just sitting there on their phones.
Right.
And dogs will pee and poo at the daycare because it's very stimulating. That doesn't mean he's going to bring that home. Sometimes
Okay.
it's just generalized to that location. And I think
Okay.
if he's that potty trained at home, you probably won't have an issue.
Okay. Yeah, he's very much, yeah. That's one thing I can say. He never messes, has an accident.
Okay, good. Yeah, you should be fine then. But it sounds like that might actually be good for him to keep doing that, especially if you've got a long day. Then it's at least something mentally and physically interesting for him to do.
Well, they seem to be very organized.
Okay, good.
They start early in the morning at 7 because they don't like you to pick them up from like 12 to 2 because that's their nap time.
Oh, they
They
have a
go in,
nap time.
yeah, they go in their kennel, they
Good.
eat their lunch, and I bring lunch for him. And then
Good.
they go in the kennel from 12 to 2. And then you can pick him up after that. They don't like you to go in and pick him up and wake up when the dogs are all resting. So
Mhm.
they seem very organized.
Okay, that's
They told me he went out in the morning and they had the swimming pools. They tried to get him to go swimming and the sprinkler. And the time that I seen him, he was in the room with ladders. And it seemed like the people weren't mingling with him. I wish that would, because that would help, I think, because he's so young, that if they would kind of pet him and kind of cuddle at him, I think that would, and they didn't. They just kind of let him go and roam around and play. And none of the dogs seemed like they were playing. And Cooper would go up and kind of pat him a little bit, and they would walk away from him. And then they said if they get too aggressive, their punishment is they pick him up and put him in the kennel for 10 minutes. They get time out. So,
yeah, that's all very appropriate. You might, when you drop him off again, tell them, is there any way you guys can at least interact with him a little bit during the day? Now, one thing I will say with a group of dogs is that if you give too much attention sometimes to one dog, the other ones can get riled up about it. So they try to keep the group even keel and level.
Okay.
So that's typically why they ignore the dogs most of the time. But with the small dogs, And I'm assuming they're divided into different
Yeah.
sizes. Okay.
Yeah.
So then with the small dogs, it's usually not as big of a deal because they're small and they don't do as, they're not as aggressive typically. If something
Right,
goes down.
right,
So
right.
you might just see if they can, explain what behaviors you're seeing and tell him he needs more interaction with other people and see if
I did kind of mention that, and Zach, they seemed very nice because when he would not go to Zach, and he goes, "Oh, we're going to have to work on this, Cooper." So, and I did fill out the paper that says it seems like he gets aggressive with some dogs, but I guess when I wasn't there, I guess he was too scared to do that, and people. I said he seems to be shying away and growling at certain people, so they knew that. And I said, those are two things that I'd like to see worked on.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a good thing that you're doing with the daycare. I would say keep doing that.
Yeah, because they asked me, they did call, and they said, Diana, I hear you don't like us. And I said, no, where did you hear that? And he said, well, you left Cooper and you were going to have him there for 5 hours. And after about 2 hours, your daughter-in-law picked him up. And I said, oh, yeah. I said the girls wanted to see him and play with him. And she was working and got off early, and she didn't think she would be back until like 5. And they were there till 7. And I said I really didn't want him to be left 8 hours there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, you can work up to that if you feel better about that. See
okay.
Yes, do half days if they offer half days. And
yeah, they do. And that's all I could really afford. I said it was just going to be 2 days, half days while I worked, because it's 14 for half a day. And that was all I could really afford. You know what I mean?
That sounds like a good idea.
Okay.
Start there and see how he does. And, the more, since it's just you and him at home most of the time, the more you can kind of ignore him, the more confident he'll become on his own. And what I mean by that is, instead of just petting him all the time and fawning over him, maybe for his dinner and his breakfast, use his kibble to get him to do things. So have him sit and lay down and, whatever he knows. If you buy a little home agility set, like they make these little cheap ones that he can learn to jump over things, and, have him just do all kinds of things. Feed him from a puzzle toy so that he has to work for his food and, manipulate an object to get the food to come out. That helps him use his brain.
Okay.
So just the more you can work him and get him, ask him to do things before he just gets attention, the better, the more confident he'll become.
Okay.
Yeah, and that'll help him with his working drive too, and get some energy out.
Okay.
Just, give him more to do.
Right, exactly. That's what I feel so bad. It's like a little puppy and they got all that energy, and it's like, he does sleep a lot. He just lays in his bed and he sleeps, and he really is kind of off on his own a lot. He don't really require a lot of attention. Okay. I mean, he really, and sometimes I feel bad that he don't like me, because it seems like I'm on the computer or I'm on my phone, like he would like to take that phone and probably eat it. So, and I feel guilty about that, because I don't seem to spend the time that I probably need to. And I do take him places with me in the car because he likes to go, and spend that time.
Well, and the reality is you're working 3 jobs and it's just you. So I think
Right.
You're doing everything you can possibly do, to give him what he needs.
Right.
And it's better than him being on a street or,
right.
At someone else's house who's left him in a yard all the time or something
right.
like that.
That's what I felt bad about the kennel. Bless his heart. He was doing so good I told Steph, I said, man, now he gets in the kennel. I put his 2 little treats and say, good boy. And I said, I'll see you when I get home. And then if I decide to Uber that day, I said, it's terrible. I'll be sitting doing some paperwork, and my Uber will go off and it'll go ding, and Cooper parks up like, I know, I got to get back in the kennel, so I mean, he's really smart, but
Yeah.
then I feel guilty because he's got to spend so much time in the kennel.
Yeah, smart dogs make the hardest pets. They just want to work and do things.
Right. He just thinks he's human. Everybody says it. They said that dog thinks that he needs to go with you everywhere you go. And everybody that has met him love him. It's like I was going to even get rid of him when I first got him because I couldn't keep him in a kennel. I didn't have time to train him. And one girl at work says, I'll take him and I'll pay for him because we got a Maltese and they'll get along great together. And then my manager comes out and goes, oh, you don't want to really get rid of him. And I go, I don't, but I want him, to be happy, and I'm not home.
How old is your coworker's Maltese?
Oh, she is older, like 3 or 4 years old. But they never been together. But they haven't been together, but she had one and she said, well, I'll take him. And I said, well, let me think about it. I said, because he's not staying in the kennel, so I don't have control over him. And and I want what's best for him. I want him happy. And then that's kind of after Christmas, the lockdown and everything. And that's what everybody at work kept saying, Dyana, just try to tough it out with him. And I said, I know, because everybody at work was so supportive of me. They said, we'll watch him for you. And my manager said, we got 3 dogs, bring him over here. And I said, yeah, but he don't know you. And then even when I got him neutered, I said, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I can't pick him up. I got to be here. And she said, well, I'll go get him. I said, yeah, but he don't know you. And so, see, I just have feelings that, he's got to be with me, all the time too. Some of it's me. So
I want to see, have him start staying with them and see, you could do a slow introduction so he gets to know them first. And, have them come up and give him a treat and walk away. And that makes them really exciting when they approach. And then,
Carol, my manager, she's got 3 of them. And she says, Dyana, my husband was even looking forward to having Cooper and watching him while he got neutered. And I said, oh, really? I said, I'm sorry. I said, but I don't like to put people out either. You know what I mean? But yeah, they were really supportive of helping me with Cooper, and they're always saying, how did he do on the lockdown? And I said, oh my God, he flew off my deck after a dog. I said, the deck's 12 feet and he just flew up in the air. And I thought, oh my God, he's going to have broken legs and broken back. And, and it was a pit bull. And I'm going, Kevin, pick your pit bull up. Cooper's coming down. And then I ran out the front. And that's what I mean. You just don't know what he's going to do. Like, I would have never thought he was going to jump off my deck. That's how he gets.
yeah.
And it really scares me.
Yeah, he just needs to, and a training class helps him build engagement with you and helps make you more exciting than other things. Okay. So right now, he's learned whatever he gets excited about, he just goes for.
Exactly.
But if you become the most exciting thing, then he'll start paying attention to you more than trying to do other things.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. That's what my daughter-in-law says. I don't even know what, she said, I was going to get my groceries and the guy came to the window and I forgot Cooper was even in the back seat with the kids. He was being so good. And he just jumped up and almost out the window after that guy. And Stephanie was like, oh my God. And it was like trying to pull Cooper back in. And the guy was then really scared. And he backed up and then he goes, can you just pop your trunk and let me? She says, Diane, I can't control him when he gets like this. And I go, I don't know what to do either. I just.
If I had a dog like that, I would never let him be loose in a car. He would be in a crate.
Okay.
Because I would always be assuming he's going to lunge at somebody.
Right.
And that way you're always prepared for that thing. Like he just won't be loose or. You won't have him loose in your house and the door open.
Right. Yeah, because that's what she said. That Jim came to the house and he charged at the door and just, she thought the door was going to break because that's how hard he hit the door to get to him. And I was like, wow.
Yeah, he just needs to learn new jobs, but you're the one that has to teach him that, and like you can teach a dog to go to a spot in your house instead of charging the door or something like that, but a training class would be a good start, and the daycare is good, and maybe having him stay with your coworkers would be good, and just giving him more to do for sure. But the class will help him engage with you,
Okay.
make you more exciting, and then he's more likely to listen to you.
Okay. That sounds good. I just
That'll,
have to make those different changes.
yeah. Well, hopefully this gives you some things to think about at least, and then you could figure out, the best way to implement everything.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, Diana. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and stop this now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.